Hello YouTube! Failot here with an in-depth review of Transformers Generation 1. I'm going to preface this by saying that all my in-depth reviews will have spoilers, although considering what I'm reviewing is 25 years old, you've probably been spoiled by it already. I'm going to begin by doing an overview of the series and why it was created, then I'm going to go ahead and review each season. So, Transformers was created by Hasbro, along with a comic book and a toy line, in order to sell said toys, in which, of course, it was very successful. Because of this, you can cut them a lot of slack, because they weren't trying to create any sort of highbrow entertainment or even anything extremely entertaining, just something to plop the kids down on a Saturday morning and watch, so they would be able to know these characters' names once they got into the toy aisle and ask their parents for the toys by name. Let's go ahead and start with the review of Season 1. Season 1 started with a 3-part pilot called More Than Meets the Eye Part 1, and it's very obviously a pilot. It's laden with animation errors, some continuity errors, for example, the Autobots flying and such. It definitely shows that they had no clue where they were headed with this, and, this pilot was just a start of a toy commercial, really. Season 1 sort of continued on in that same fashion. There was very little continuity between episodes beyond establishing a new character, which is essentially just means a new toy to sell. There were some neat things done, of course. Some things I didn't expect, like for example in the Ultimate Doom, when they brought the planet in next to Earth, I never expected it to actually affect it, I expected the planet just to sit there and they could travel back and forth, but I didn't expect that it would affect the gravity and, create crazy tidal waves and stuff like that, and be generally cataclysmic. But then again, at the end of that episode just hurts my brain sometimes. But I'm ranting a little bit. I'm reviewing the episode, and in a lot of ways there's some things that I kind of do like about Season 1, like the characters, definitely. Because they just feel like the ultimate original characters, Huffer, Trailbreaker, Sunstreaker, Sideswipe, all of them just feel like, when I think about the original Autobots, those are who I picture in my head now. And they did have a very army feel. One of the things I kind of liked is because they had so many characters, so many toys to sell, they rotated who was in what episode often. So it wasn't like there were only 7 main characters and they went on missions every single time. Each time, Brawn might not be there, and Trailbreaker's in his place, or Wheeljack might not be there and he's just, hanging out back at the lab. It also set up Bumblebee and Spike, who were, a neat little duo. I think it was cool that the Autobots, had help from the humans, and also it seemed, from what little could be garnered, that they immediately began open discussion with, the humans, America, of course, as is the way most American shows go. So I guess I've just been kind of rambling, but I kind of like this. It feels appropriate for Season 1. So let's go on to Season 2. Season 2 weighs in at a whopping 49 episodes. The reason for this being they needed 65 episodes to get syndicated, which is what they wanted. So that's what Season 2 was. That was the main purpose of the length of Season 2. And when Season 2 began, it started out with just the same Transformers that were in Season 1, but all of a sudden they just started appearing, which made the continuity get worse and worse, because from episode to episode you would sometimes see all of the Autobots together. But a few episodes ago, there were other Transformers that were missing. Like, for example, in, what's the name of it again? Megatron's Master Plan. Megatron's Master Plan, what a bad episode. But anyway, in Megatron's Master Plan, you see all the Autobots being sent aboard the shuttle, and Omega Supreme is clearly not there, as he would be, definitely big enough to spot in the crowd. The crowd was sort of loose enough that you could have said, oh, they were all there. But Omega Supreme being missing is an obvious mistake. That being said, though, although there were continuity issues majorly in how many Autobots there were, Season 2 did a lot of things I started to like the character-centric episodes, which sometimes played out very well. They played up a bunch of characters that I like. Powerglide, for example, I like a lot, even though his self-titled episode, The Girl Who Loved Powerglide, had problems. Trax also got an episode, Make Trax, and he's now one of my favorite Autobots. They did a lot to set up the characters, which I like. Which, as I said in my Talk Transformers video, one of the things I like so much about Generation 1 is that because it was a toy commercial, what it had to do was set up each Transformer to some degree as their own character. In most cases they were very two-dimensional, but they had to be different enough for, children to be able to tell the difference between them. And so that caused for, in some cases, some very unique characters. And there were also some episodes that I very much enjoyed. Episodes like Child's Play, I enjoyed a lot. It did some interesting things, did some space stuff. I believe that was the first episode that had going into space. It did some weird things, like a Decepticon raider in King Arthur's court. It did some funny things, like the entire Crimzeek episode makes me laugh because the Autobots are just run ragged. Like, from the second that Crimzeek is released, they are constantly trying to get him under control, and Optimus Prime just even starts to lose his temper near the end. They do a lot in Season 2 because there's a lot of episodes. And things start to get better on a whole. They start to introduce more combiners. They start to have more characters built up, more things going on. Season 2 still has a lot of problems, but I would say Season 2 is a step in the right direction. After Season 2 ended, came Transformers the movie, which takes a 20-year time skip into the far-off future of 2005, where everyone wears silver jumpsuits. This introduces a lot of new characters, and also kills off a lot of old characters. One of the interesting things about it is, they actually pushed for a PG-13 rating to get some of the teenagers interested in seeing it. So they're, on top of there being quite a few somewhat graphic deaths, there's a few curse words littered in there. Just enough curse words for them to get PG-13. Another interesting thing to note is that it had a lot of big named voice talent. Namely, it was Orson Welles. It was one of Orson Welles' last roles. I think he did an excellent job, and he felt that the whole thing was a joke. He said in an interview that he felt like he was playing a toy, fighting a bunch of other toys. And to be honest, from a fan perspective, that kind of hurts a little. But considering all the Transformers was when the movie came out, I cannot blame him, and even the content of the movie itself, I can't blame him at all for feeling that way or for saying that.